It's May 30th, 2026. I'll be speaking with Liam. He took part in the Global Sumud Flotilla to try to deliver food and supplies to Gaza, an attempt that received a violent response from Israel. He'll be speaking tomorrow, Sunday, May 31st, at the Palestinian Museum US in Woodbridge, Connecticut, at 3 o'clock. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Stanley. Thank you for having me.
I don't want to duplicate your Sunday talk, so I want to just get into your background for a little bit and then speak some about the flotilla, let's say before the Israelis intercepted it. I understand you're a sailor and you were on the Clearwater professionally. Can you talk about that?
Yes, my name is Liam. I'm originally from upstate New York, and I've spent the last 10 years, basically most of my adult life, working in what people call tall ships, so large, traditionally rigged sailing vessels. And the Clearwater in particular, I've spent quite a lot of time on. For anyone who isn't familiar with it, it is a reproduction of a 19th century trading vessel. And it goes up and down the Hudson River, anywhere from Albany, New York to New York City, and runs educational programming. The boat is used as a platform for environmental education, mostly for elementary schoolers, but on up to adult continuing education groups. And I worked there in various contexts. I started there as a volunteer, I guess 11 years ago at this point, and just spent most of last year and the year before sailing as captain of that boat, running the educational program and operating the boat.
And it has a storied history. Its connection with trying to clean the Hudson River and Pete Seeger. Could you just talk about that a bit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Clearwater was started in part by a man named Pete Seeger, famed activist, part of the American labor movement, blacklisted as a communist, etc. He was a banjo player and an activist, and he always, I never had the pleasure of meeting him. He died the year before I first set foot on the Clearwater, but always told that he didn't like it when people said that the Clearwater was his boat. He said it was the people's boat, but
Ah,
nonetheless, he was strongly associated with it. And his work as a musician helped raise a lot of the money to build it, and so it's long had a legacy as a space for activists, and that continues to this day. A lot of the crew are people who are drawn to it because of that legacy, and are people who are often in leftist spaces and people who are hoping to use education and advocacy as tools to try to affect change in the world, positive change. um,
right. So, how did one get from the Hudson River to work for Gaza and Palestine? What's your background?
Yeah, so the flotilla, this iteration of flotilla, which was organized by an organization called the Global Sumud Flotilla, they had done another similar project in September of last year, and as you are aware, and maybe some of the people watching this video are aware, it's just the most recent stage in a long history of people trying to break the blockade on Gaza. Um, Israel has imposed a blockade on Gaza, I believe, since 2008. Um, so long before the start of the most recent hostilities, and people have been trying to break through that blockade, which has at various points been declared illegal. It was declared an act of collective punishment under the Geneva Convention or the Geneva Code. And so civilian-led efforts have been trying to break that blockade to bring aid to the people of Gaza for a long time. And this is the most recent iteration, and it was the largest one ever done by far, involving more than 50 boats. It actually would have involved a lot more, but there was a first sort of initial interception by the Israelis that captured 22 boats. Um,
Let me
but
go
in any
back a
case,
step, if
yeah,
I may go back a step. How did you get interested in Palestine? Where
oh,
did
sure.
this come up in your activism?
So yeah, I just as a young man learned about uh, Palestine. I had the privilege of going to a very effective public school, and I learned, I think, a lot of things that some people in the U.S. education system don't have the luxury of learning, and I remember basically, I think I was in 10th grade learning about the British Mandate period in the Near East and the creation of the modern boundaries of the nations that exist there now, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, etc., and learning about Israel at that time, and learning about Palestine, and learning about the struggle of the Palestinians and the sort of the initial creation of the Israeli state, and the Nakba, the Nakba. My Arabic is not great, but the original, the catastrophe, as it means in English. And yeah, I generally had like a sort of anti-colonial stance, which continues to this day. And so I was aware of the struggle of the Palestinians. I was not necessarily involved in direct actions related to the Palestinian cause. It was more doing stuff closer to home. I've been a little bit involved with Black Lives Matter, NYPD going by. Black Lives Matter, and work with some indigenous groups in New York. But a friend of mine was involved with the flotilla, and she said basically they need people who know how to sail, and they need people who understand boats. They also need people who are willing to teach people how to sail, because the majority of the participants in the flotilla are selected for their ability to generate media attention. There's politicians, there's influencers. We also brought people who had medical training to help care for the people on the boats, and so on. And so they were in pretty keen need, since it was such a large project, for people who understood how to sail and understood how to operate boats, and also understood how to keep people who didn't know how to operate boats safe, which is basically what I do for a living. So I said, that sounds like a great opportunity for me to use my professional skills to help something I believe in. And so that's why I signed up.
Great. So where did you join the flotilla? What port?
I joined in Italy. So there were boats that departed from Spain, Italy, Greece, and Turkey. The Spanish boats obviously departed earlier, and worked their way east across the Mediterranean, rendezvoused with us in Italy, and then we kept going. And so I was in Italy for about a month, helping prepare the boats, and then I was sailing from there.
And when did the first effort then try to get to Gaza? Around what day, what month?
So, sorry, could you repeat that question? I didn't quite hear it.
So when was the effort made first to actually get to Gaza by the boats?
So the final leg, as it were, departed from Marmaris, Turkey. I believe it was the 15th of May. Or no, it was the 14th. Sorry. And that was the kind of final leg. We moved along the Turkish coast for a little while, for about a day and a half, and then we turned southeast, left the coast, and ventured across the sort of open sea, across the Mediterranean, heading towards Gaza. And we were started to be captured and intercepted. I believe it was the 18th.
And this is the final time, but
Yes.
there was an earlier effort and you were stopped then, is that right?
Yes. So yeah, as the fleet moved east, so the Spanish ships had joined the Italian ships, and we had departed from Italy. There was an initial interception between Sicily and Crete, what's called the Ionian Sea, which was an unprecedented in the history of the flotilla movement. I think the furthest anyone had been captured from Gaza was about 170 nautical miles. This was 650 nautical miles. So extremely, very far away. It was still international waters. It's not, I don't know that it's necessarily any more illegal than it is if we're only 170 miles, but it certainly was very brazen and without precedent in the Israeli military's efforts to prevent the flotillas from reaching Gaza. It was quite far. So yeah, I was captured along with my two friends, Bridget and Freddie. Hopefully Bridget will still be joining us tomorrow. I'm not sure. She's already returned to work and apparently has some stuff to take care of this weekend. But in any case, the three of us, along with about 180 other people, were captured along with 22 boats in the Ionian Sea, about 50 miles or a little bit less west of Crete, and 650 miles from Gaza.
And they didn't take you to Israel that time. Where did they put you?
They handed us over to the Greek Coast Guard, and we were deposited in Crete. where many of us ended up returning home. Because of my maritime capabilities, was offered a position on one of the boats that was departing from Greece, and I took that opportunity and continued on with the mission.
And then you did the last leg, and
Yeah,
we're
it
going to hear
was.
about those rather grim details tomorrow. I really appreciate you talking with me.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Stanley, and I hope that anybody who watches this, yeah, remembers that the struggle is ongoing, and there's a lot that we can still do for Palestine right now. And I think hopefully captivate, just capitalizing on some of the momentum from the media attention from the flotilla to help continue pushing change, especially in Europe, where there's been a lot of public outrage and outrage from governments there about the
All
treatment of the
right, very
flotilla
good.
members.
All right, be talking to you tomorrow.
Yep. See you tomorrow, Stanley.